Hello everyone, as you're probably aware, I went to UK Games Expo recently, as did Oliver, and we had an excellent time. I spent a lot of my time on the show floor approaching indie UK RPG publishers and talking to them about their products, and what you're about to listen to is a series of interviews from the show floor. I did speak to a couple of board game publishers as well, but my focus was mostly on the indie RPG scene where I felt I could make some impact. A little word about a couple of the interviews before we get going. My interview with Zach from Soul Muppet Publishing and Dave from Patterson Games came out a little strange. I was testing some new technology, and a couple of times the mics seemed to muck up and make the interviewees sound like they were booming gods. I've spoken to both Dave and Zach about including this audio, and they're both fine with it on the understanding that it's not fantastic, and they've had to listen to the audio themselves. I think it's still usable, and they've got some interesting things to say, so I've kept it in. Hope you enjoy. You'll also hear a new voice on this cast. That's my friend Rich Stokes, who buddied me around the con and was a temporary member of the Giant Brain team as we toured the convention. Thanks very much to Rich for helping me out with interviews and chats over the course of the convention, and also just be my buddy around the con. It was good fun. It's day one of UK Games Expo. Rich and I are sitting outside the main halls, waiting to go in. It is massively busier than it was 5 years ago, by some degree of the imagination. Huge queues waiting to get in. I've only got a couple of things booked today. I'm going to see Distilled, and I'm going to go and see the folks that make Hegemony, or Hegemony, or however you want to pronounce that. I'll certainly be asking them that, inquiry minds want to know. And yeah, we'll hopefully get a few interviews with different folk over the course of the day. So it is the Friday of UK Games Expo, and my first stop, or first interview at least, has been at Soul Muppet Publishing. So, sorry, who am I talking to from Soul Muppet Publishing?
I'm Zach, or Jelly Muppet. I am the creative director and co-founder of Soul Muppet Publishing.
Okay, so what do you do at Soul Muppet?
I am essentially like the project/product manager,
okay,
and which means it's my job to take ideas and turn them into books that we then sell. We've got a small team here at Soul Muppet. There's just three of us, but we work with a load of freelancers and creatives from across the UK and indeed around the world to make lots of RPGs. I also personally am the writer of games like Best F Buried, Inevitable, and Paint the Town Red, and the co-creator of our game Orbital Blues.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I get up to, making books and writing games about sad people.
I mean, Inevitable's in front of me right here, this sort of large tome. What is Inevitable about? Like, what do you do in Inevitable?
Okay, so this is our new game out this weekend. It went to crowdfunding last year, and we finally managed to get it out. We call it a doomed Arthurian Western.
Right, okay.
In this game, you play a group of heroes, a sort of in some characters in the court of the king of Myth, this great last city in civilization.
Okay, sure.
In a dusty, faded desert.
Yeah.
There has been a prophecy that everyone knows will come true, that Myth is going to be destroyed. The end times are near. So you're getting increasingly closer to this end game apocalypse that you can't stop. It's impossible. This is a play to lose RPG where you can't save the world, but you can certainly tell a story about how you went down blazing.
Okay.
It's an Arthurian Western, so we're mixing the elements of Arthuriana, so doomed and tragic heroes, horrible love stories that don't always end very well, magic swords buried in lakes, and then the other half of it is westerns. So we have wizards with 6 shooters and sort of cowboy bandits roaming around, and then these big, wide, sweeping deserts that these stories happen inside.
Yeah. Cool. So that's out right now, yeah?
That's out right now. It isn't on our web store yet, but I think by the time this makes it live to backers, live to your listeners, it should be on sale on our web store. And it's our newest game, apart from Paint the Town Red, which is just building up to a crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, someone thrust a quick start of that into my hands earlier. What's Paint the Town Red about?
So I make role-playing games about how sad I am. And this game is about how sad and dead I am. It's a game about being dead inside. You play a vampire with depression who is chasing the sensation of being alive.
Right.
You are essentially playing like hedonistic party vampires.
Okay, sure.
With what we call passions, which are things they do, hobbies, habits, addictions that they compel to that make them feel happier inside.
Okay, sure.
And by indulging these passions, your pulse increases and your character literally gains health as possible. So the healing mechanic is having a good time. So your adventures in this game feel less like a D&D game where you're like going on quests and killing monsters and stuff, and less like a Vampire the Masquerade game where you're like trying to accumulate power or learn occult knowledge about these factions, and more like this sort of emotional rat race to try to be as happy as possible in a given situation. It's set in on Earth and in Earth's real history, where you basically end up in a city that all the vampires are drawn to because it's the greatest place in the world to live. And you paint the town red, you tear the world up, and just things get slowly messier and messier and messier as you play the game.
Yeah.
Until eventually you're forced to move on from the city, but you're undead. You'll skip a couple of centuries, end up in the next place, and the campaign will continue as your group of friends, your found family of vampires, skips through time to the next location.
Yeah. Because you got another Found Family game, you've got like Orbital Blues, Sad Space Cowboys. And
Sad Space Cowboys as well.
And you've got lots of other little games here. How do you feel like the UK indie RPG scene is right now? It seems pretty healthy to me.
I think we're genuinely in a stronger position than ever. There's like a bunch of really good publishers here selling things, and I feel like walking around. Is it early in the show? I haven't been everywhere yet. There's less 5th edition than there has been in a while, right? There's a lot of weird stores, and everyone's stands are getting bigger and more exciting. The industry is just blooming right now. And I think particularly there are outfits like the Tabletop Industry Network and the UK Indie RPG League who are really doing a good job of bringing different creators together and sort of becoming a group and having a more exciting stand than they would have had a couple of years ago. I think a really good thing to check out if you're at Games Expo or following online is Stamp Quest, right? Which is an initiative that the Tabletop Industry Network have put together with a bunch of their compatriots. If you go to any of our social medias, you'll be able to find links to like basically this directory of really cool RPG publishers who are in the UK exhibiting here and making weird and interesting things. So I think we're having a better, certainly at Games Expo, where indie RPGs are stronger than they've ever been.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much for your time. No,
I'll
be checking out your games for sure.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. It's the second interview of UK Games Expo 2024, day one. It's the Friday. I'm here with Penny from Leyline Press, who make a lot of different RPGs here. In front of me is their main one, which is Salvage Union. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so Salvage Union is a post-apocalyptic mech tabletop role-playing game.
Cool. That's a quick pitch. What do characters kind of do in it, apart from obviously stomp around in gigantic mechs in a wasteland?
You play as salvagers, so you go out into the wasteland, you get scrap and trash, and you use that to build your mechs and also support your community, who will live in a giant mech themselves, which acts as a sort of home base that crawls along the wasteland.
So there's just a bit of base building in there, is there, as well?
Yeah. So as you play over sort of 6 tech levels of the game, you upgrade both your mechs and your pilots, but also your home base, which expands out as you play.
Cool. How long has Salvage Union been around?
So we launched in December.
December last year?
Yeah, December last year.
Okay.
So we're out in retail now. You can get it on our website as well.
Cool.
And we kickstarted it a couple of years ago.
Cool. And you've got some extra bits and pieces for it as well. What are all those? Like some adventures and things, is it?
So we've got 3 adventure modules for Salvage Union.
Right.
All the adventures are kind of like 10 to 15 session campaigns that also add new content to the game. Like new mechs and new rules and systems.
Cool.
To expand out the core system.
Cool. You've got some other RPGs as well, one of which I don't think I like, called Shadow of Mog. What can you tell us about that?
Shadow of Mog is a game I wrote in a fever dream. It's a post-Brexit role-playing game. You play as survivors in the London Underground.
So it's modern day, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a modern day take on the Tories. And the the gimmick, I guess, is that all of the actions in the game have to be voted on and resolved as a group, so you have no individuality. You can't do individual actions. You have to.
Sure.
You have to vote. Who gets to eat first, what direction we go in, do we eat the cat, etc.
Okay. So
yeah, that's the gist. Yeah.
What's coming out from you guys kind of in the future? Are you working on anything just now? Or?
Yeah. So our next project we're working on is called Cyblock.
Okay.
Which is a tower mega dungeon for Cyborg, which is a rules light cyberpunk game.
Yeah.
And the idea it's going to be 50 fully detailed stories, like a mega dungeon of this tower.
Right.
The book's probably going to be about 650 page A4. Oh. It's an insane idea.
That's a book you can kill a man with.
Yeah, we can kill plenty of, probably multiple.
Yeah.
And we're quite excited about it. So we're going to be playtesting that at UKG as well. At Games on Demand.
I get the feeling like the UK indie RPG scene's pretty healthy right now. How do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, no, it is actually. I think it seems to get bigger every year we come.
Yeah.
And it's really vibrant. I think it's going well. Yeah, there's more and more indie press stuff as well, which I like to see. And it feels like there's a lot of not D&D out, which is nice.
Yeah, no, it's great. Well, thanks very much for your time, Panny.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's interview 3 of Games Expo 2024. It's the Friday, as far as I can remember. I'm tired already. Here with Jack from Mouse Hole Press. How's the con going for you so far, Matt?
It's going really well, yeah. I've never been to a convention like this before, so it's a fresh experience, but so far so good.
Cool. So the thing that attracted me to your stall was the slow knife. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's a revenge story, but you play the villains.
Okay.
So you're playing the bad guys in this story. You've kind of ruined the life of a nice, promising young individual.
Okay, sure.
And this is the story of over around 30 years of that person coming back to get their revenge on you. But first you need to kind of rise to prominence and power so that you can fall very far at the end of the story.
So it's a tabletop RPG, so it's like a one-shot, is it, kind of thing? Or?
100%, yeah. So it's a very lightweight thing, so you're not rolling a lot of dice or doing a lot of stats, but you're just kind of creatively telling your story together as a table.
Cool. So how does it sort of work across the course of a session?
So the game's split into 4 acts, and each of those acts has a bunch of cards that you draw, and each of those cards introduces something new to your story, so an event or a new connection to somebody, and you then add to a conspiracy board, a real kind of red pins and...
Yeah, like the thing from the meme from Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
that, silver. And that board grows in complexity as you go to kind of encapsulate your story.
Yeah, it looks really cool here. I'll take a picture of it, folks, so you can see it, and I'll attach that to the cast. You've got 2 different versions of the game here?
Yeah, one's the original printing, so that was, it's nearly gone, and that's just one that's got custom cards in it, and then the new version from now on is going to be everything in a book, so it's the same content in both.
So you just use a sort of standard deck of playing cards to do the sort of card side of it?
Yeah.
What other games do you have on the stall?
So the big one that's just launched is Koriko, which is a solo role-playing game. And that is, you're telling the story of a teenage witch spending a year away from home.
Okay, sure. So Kiki's Delivery Service, that kind of influence,
yeah, very much so. That's my son's favourite film. So
right, okay,
it's kind of absorbed into my body at this point. And so that you're using, again, you're kind of drawing cards for bits of story.
Sure.
And you're also stacking dice in a big tower when you do risky things. And when that tower collapses, that introduces new consequences to your story.
Cool. Awesome. I've spoken to a few indie RPG stands over the course of the con so far, and I'm intending to talk to more. How do you feel about the sort of state of the UK indie RPG scene at the moment? To me, it seems really healthy. It seems really vibrant. But how are you finding it?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that statement. Yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, I've self-published a lot of stuff, and it's really the first year this year that I'm able to kind of raise my head above the parapet and look around to some extent with everything else going on. But
cool.
It's looking good.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your time, Jack. Cheers.
Thanks.
I can't remember which number interview this is of the day, but it's the end of Friday of UK Games Expo 2024. I'm at Patterson Games Stall with Dave Beck, who's the owner and sort of lead designer of the company. What have you got going on, Dave?
Oh, man, a lot. So I've got, of course, Distilled. We've got Distilled on offer, and people are playing that. We've got expansions for Distilled, the new cast strength expansion that we just released. This is actually UK Games Expo. Is the first time we're releasing it for the public to play. So that's a lot of fun. And then Luthier is our next game coming to Kickstarter in July. Really heavily thematic game again, just like we do with Distilled. This time all about making violins, making trumpets, making organs, all different types of music.
Cool. And I first heard of you through the Midlothian Board Gamers group,
Yeah.
which I'm part of in Dalkeith in Scotland. And you stayed in Scotland for a bit, and that's kind of where Distilled came
That's
from.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. I was this was 2019. I was desperate to find a board, like someone to play games with.
Yep.
And I found it online. Like, I started showing up. It was so fun to get together with the guys up there. And then at the same time, out of nowhere, I started coming up with this idea for a game about distilling whiskey and other spirits. So I worked on the prototype all through my time there, played it with some of them at the club too. Went up to Tabletop Scotland as well. That was a lot of fun that year too. And then when I got back, that's where I really dove into thinking about, making a Kickstarter, making a run for it.
Cool. So like, I've been talking to like a lot of indie RPG folk, and like it's a little easier to stand out in that crowd a little bit because there's not so much of it. Like with taking games to Kickstarter, and there's so many games here. I don't know how many games here, lots. But how do you find sort of like becoming a new like publisher and like getting yourself known? How's that been?
It's actually been pretty amazing, mainly because I didn't know what I was getting into at all. And so I was very fortunate, very lucky that we had a successful Kickstarter. That kind of catapulted me into having a company, running the company. And now I've noticed and I've discovered that I feel I'm fairly good at that process of the publisher side. I also enjoy it. I think that's the difference. Sometimes the publisher side is not for a designer, but I really like that side too.
Yeah, because you do game design teaching as your sort of day job, right?
Yeah. So I'm at a university over in Wisconsin in the States. I teach game design over there. It's a video game design program, but I teach an intro to game design class where we do a lot of board game design and prototyping as well.
Do you think there's a lot of crossover between like what you can learn from designing board games into computer games?
I think so, yeah. And actually, why we designed the class is for that exact reason. A student does not need to know how to code in a game engine while they can still create systems and puzzles and solutions and rule sets. And that starts to then translate to how they can apply that same idea into a virtual system as well.
Cool. So Luthier is coming out like 16th July. Are there sort of plans like further down the line for something else?
Yeah. Can't say yet, but I'll probably announce that after the Kickstarter. We've got a couple in the hopper that we're working on that we want to be able to announce. Distilled was launched in 2021. This is launched in 2024. I really want to shave it down to doing something almost every year. So we're really trying to ramp up the company a little bit more, bringing in new designs, new designers as well.
Does that mean you're sort of expanding, taking on new people as well? Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
Cool. How big is Patterson Games out of interest?
Me.
Just you at the moment.
Pretty much. I mean, I've got a really good friend who I've been working closely with who does all my development. He's here in the UK. I've also then got a rules editor over back with me. Someone else that helps me do the tabletop simulator, like scripting, so we can do playtesting. So I have a great network. No one really a part of an official full-time employee, but I think that's going to be the next step to start to look at that too.
Do you think like learning like the sort of like the TTS stuff, like that tabletop simulator, sort of like prototyping? Do you think that's essential now to like doing like board games?
I think it's essential to incorporate digital online playtesting if you want to playtest more frequently with a more diverse audience.
Yeah.
Because for me, if I want to playtest in person, I've got a small pool of people, especially where I am, a small town. So it allows me to expand, allows me to work with my developer over in the UK at the same time.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks very much for your time, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks.
Cheers. So it's the end-ish of day one of UK Games Expo 2024. There's still a few hours to go. Rich and I are in the bar of the Hilton. What did we see today? It was cool, Rich.
We saw a lot of things.
We saw a lot of things. We walked both the halls to get sort of our bearings a little bit and sort of see what was what.
Yeah, and there were a lot of things. A lot of it, I think this is the first time either of us have been here since before the plague.
Yeah, 2019 was last time.
2019, so it's 5 years.
Yeah.
While it is a much bigger event than it was then, it isn't. There doesn't seem to. A lot of it's the same stuff that was here 5 years ago. It's a lot of the same people like Asmodee, Cubicle 7, Free League, Modifius.
If you can name a games company, here.
I mean, they're all here. Catan Studios got their big thing. So a lot of it is just the same things, but slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Very noticeable, big presence for the indie RPG scene.
Yeah.
Really noticeably a lot of individual stands, as well as the collectives.
Yeah.
What's the name of the the group? What is the group?
So there's the UK Indie RPG Collective, and there's like another one that I think is here as well, Tabletop Industry Network, I think they're called.
Right, so there's essentially they're loose groups of people who've like teamed up to offset the cost, the really quite significant cost of a stall at Games Expo, which is not something to be sniffed at. Other than that, probably the other thing that was pretty striking is not just one but two old card games from the 90s that are still going and being run by fan collectives, which is really good.
Yeah, so there's No Signal, which I've spoken about in the cast before. We've done interviews with Serenity from there
just
a few years ago.
To clarify, publishing Netrunner.
Publishing Netrunner,
you don't know who they are. But also Black Chantry with Vampire the Eternal Struggle, which, as someone said, Vitez is back. Vampire the Eternal Struggle is back. And I kind of felt like, no, it's not back. It just never really went away. It's been there the whole time. It's been run by, every time someone who publishes it stops, someone else picks that up. So WotC published it initially, and they stopped. White Wolf picked it up. And then when they stopped publishing it, I think it was just straight away Black Chantry picked it up, which is basically a fan collective who loved the game and just didn't want it to go away. So I've been essentially publishing it since then.
Yeah, and the really cool thing, I think No Signal's work is fantastic. They're doing really good stuff. What really impressed me about Black Chantry is there's some really accessible stuff in there. There's a 5-player... So if you don't know Vampire the Eternal Struggle at all, folks, basically it's a card game where you play a clan. You play a prince.
I think to wind back a little, it was a CCG based on the Vampire the Masquerade RPG. I think the premise is more that you're one of the shadowy, really powerful vampires in the background who don't really ever appear on screen in the RPG. Right? You're just manipulating all kinds of people from the shadows. So. It was a CCG. It is now being published as effectively using the LCG model, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
There are a bunch of combination of pre-constructed decks and sort of event packs and themed releases, but they are all fixed content. There's no blind buy in it. There hasn't been. I don't think there has been the whole time Black Chantry have been running it. They do actually do print on demand in the US. They do print on demand singles through what's the card version of RPG now? Drive-through.
Drive-through cards.
Yeah, drive-through cards. That's it. So on drive-through cards, you can literally order. You design your deck and I'm 10 copies of this card short. Oh yeah, I'll just order another 10 copies from drive-through, and they'll bring them and ship them to you. So it's really it's a weird one in that it's not hugely successful by modern standards, but gosh, that is a 30-year-old game that is still running and still doing organised play tournaments that are attracting in the UK are attracting 50 people, which isn't massive, but that's pretty good going for a game that has been out of mainstream print for the best part of 20 years.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I like to see them being able to bring that back. And I guess part of that is that sort of printing is successful now. It's not, you don't have to order 10,000 copies at a time.
That's right. Well, they're not. Well, the stuff that they had on their store today isn't print on demand. That's proper regular. What do you call that? It's offset card print. Just standard print. Because as you say, you can. The technology's there where you can get a reasonable price point for a comparatively small run. And they've got a pretty loyal, not a massive, but a pretty loyal fan base. And like you said, their 5-player. Like you were saying a moment ago, their 5-player starter set, it's literally a 5 starting decks that are designed to be relatively easy to play, straight out of the box with no deck building. Each one comes with a sheet that tells you what the strategy should be when you're playing it on one side, and then the other side is your rules reference
nice.
for during play. So it's a really good break this out, sit down, and you could treat that just as a regular 5-player card game, right? But it's also a great entry point if you wanted to get into deck building and stuff. None of those decks are bad. They're actually decent decks, right? And you could buy a couple, one more pack or a couple more packs, and update. Maybe jiggle around with those decks, and they would be pretty competitive in high level tournament play. those would actually be quite good decks, right? So they've done quite a good job of making it both accessible and actually useful to existing players. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really like I kind of ignored Black Shandy because I think their initial stuff was a little ramshackle.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
the stuff they're doing now seems like really like they're really keen to get people to play. Like say like that 5-player starter set is like really nice, and then like you can buy like other starter decks which are sort of like balanced to play with those starter decks, so different plans, different strategies, and you can just play those on rotation in your group, and like you never have to buy anything ever again.
Yeah, you might go, you know what?
But you're still playing
we'll play
it, right?
The starter, but this guy, we don't want Toreador. We want Zamisi to be that. Let's use that deck instead. Yeah, that'll work fine, right? So yeah, it'll be pretty impressive that they've kept the torch burning this way. But I mean, other than that, was there anything?
Yeah, well, I suppose there's Soul Up Publishing today, who's like an RPG publisher, and they do other games as well. They're doing some interesting stuff there. I'll make up a couple of their games tomorrow to do some reviews of. Spoke to the guys from Leyline Press and got a review copy of Salvage Union, which is like their big mecha.
Very nicely put together book.
Yeah, it looks like a Haynes manual, basically.
Yeah.
It's a lovely
very clever design, that, isn't it?
Came across Household Publishing. I'm getting that name wrong, I think. But the Slow Knife, which is sort of game of like you are the villains in a story, and like the wronged party has come back to seek their revenge on you after 30 years. So like a sort of little storytelling RPG thing, one shot intended. There's like lots of cool little things going on in the RPG scene. I hope to speak to more of those folk tomorrow. Yeah. Because, that's the really interesting stuff, I think.
Yeah.
I'm like haven't sat down and played a lot of board games today. Do more of that tomorrow, probably. Yeah,
it'd be good.
Cool.
Nice. Well, that was day one.
Day two to come.
Day two to come. Bye.
Hello, folks. It's day two, or day one, or day. Which day is it? It's day two. It's Saturday. It's Saturday of UK Games Expo, and the first interview of the day is with folk from the International Role Playing Youth Exchange. I'm here with Anna from that organisation. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
So we are a role-playing exchange project. It's a bunch of young people from 4 different countries around Europe. We've got Wales, which is where we're from. We've got Ireland, Italy, and Germany. And basically, young people aged 16 to 25 have got together to create a role-playing game based around climate change. And it's just to try and sort of get the conversation about climate change, but also introduce young people into making role-playing games and getting into the industry.
So do they get together to do that, or are you doing it online, or how does that work?
We started out online on Discord, and thanks to funding from Tithe, Erasmus, and other organisations, we have been able to do some exchange trips. So we started out with one to the Centre for Alternative Technologies in Wales, and then we did one to Trento in Italy, and one to Kempten in Germany as well.
Great, cool. So what's sort of come out of that so far?
Well, the first product that was made a couple of years ago was Tricksters Net, which is a role-playing game set in a multiverse hopping role-playing game. And then the second one that we're currently making that will be released later this year is Biosphere Guardians 2050. So you play as rangers trying to protect rewilded areas in a sort of optimistic carbon-negative future.
Cool. So do you does the organisation sort of pick a theme that the kids sort of work towards every year, or how does that work? Or do the kids pick it themselves?
I think the theme was picked for us.
Right, okay.
And then we kind of just built it from there.
Sure. Is it something that happens every year, or?
It's happened a couple of times. We've been working on Biosphere for 2 years now.
Right, okay.
So it's going to happen again in the future, I imagine. But it's not a yearly thing. It's just,
cool.
until the game gets made.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
It is the Saturday of UK Games Expo, I think. I'm quite tired, but that's okay, because I'm here back at Soul Muppet Publishing. I've talked to Zach yesterday about here. I'm about to buy a copy of Over to Blues, because apparently it is the game that represents Soul Muppet Publishing the best. And I'm here with the creators of that game, Josh and Sam. Sam's the writer, Josh is the artist, is that right?
That's correct,
right? Yeah. So what is Orbital Blues about, apart from, it says a space western RPG on the cover.
Orbital Blues is a game about sad space cowboys. It is about a gig economy in a hyper-capitalist space.
Okay.
And you are playing as interstellar outlaws in a universe that doesn't really care about whether you live or succeed.
Okay.
You take on gigs and dirty jobs and bounties in order to make ends meet. And it's a very stylish game about just trying to find your place in the world.
Cool. So what were the sort of touchstone influences for you, like, designing this game?
Being poor.
We can all get behind that.
Working in the gig economy and having depression.
Okay.
Were the biggest like influences. But if you're talking about like an Appendix N or something like that, then I would say Cowboy Bebop is the biggest influence by far.
Okay.
Followed by things like Firefly or is it Blake 7?
Yeah.
A lot of people have said that to us as well.
I mean, some of the art style.
Blake 7, but apparently people say it looks inspired by it.
Yeah, there's some of the art style in here. Like,
Josh, tell us about the art.
It's like really good. It's like there's a mix of like sort of like advertising for things that are presumably in the world, and like sort of like simplicity is all the sophistication with like a little sort of like Bakelite computer from the 50s on it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because when I was brought into the project, I was told that advertising and corporations was such a huge part of the world.
Yeah.
I wanted to really incorporate that into the art.
Cool.
And so a lot of the art in this book and also in the extra adventures is like in-universe advertising, diegetic logos, big pieces and posts and kind of things like that. And that was really important to me to get that tone right.
Yeah.
And carry that through the whole book.
Like, it's really nice to lay out. Like, I really appreciate, like, I'm a big fan of, like, John Harper's design, like, Lights in the Dark at Dawn, things like that. And John's, like, a graphic designer by trade, basically.
Well, we had a wonderful layout artist, Lone Archivist.
All right.
And they did a fantastic job at putting everything together.
Yeah, it's
and really, like, giving it a wonderful, like, atmosphere. Just looking at the book is a very great, like, it's a great experience just looking at it.
So what's, like, a typical session of Orbital Blues like? Like, what do you do as characters in it?
You try and get by, essentially.
Right, okay.
It's about, you usually have a job to do.
Right.
The book itself has a lot of like exemplary jobs and a job generator that you can do. And the jobs themselves are like running a bounty, running a heist, stealing something, delivering something, whether that's like running security for a long-haul space trucking gig, something like that.
Yes.
The game runs on a system of credits and debts.
Yeah.
So as a crew, every action that you undertake will incur debt, and every job that you pull off, hopefully, if it goes well, will gain you credits. But the system, which was like engineered by myself and Zachary Cox of Soul Muppet, is being set up in such a way that you're never really going to get your head above water.
Right.
You're always going to be like chasing the next job and always running to the next thing in order just to keep your ship running or get from A to B. So your average session it can be run as either just like a little one-off, and you can run a job and call it a day there.
Yeah.
Or you can like have a campaign, which the game really lends itself to. It doesn't have a traditional XP system. It has what we would call SAD for XP. So
Okay, sure.
By undergoing the trials and tribulations of being an interstellar outlaw and having a generally bad time, that is how your character gets better and gains more gambits, which are like your positive traits, but in turn you also take on more troubles, which is, oh, I have a terrible smoking habit, or like I am a gambling addict, or I am a thrill seeker and I keep crashing my ship.
Okay.
Right? So your troubles are negative traits that you take on, and in turn they fuel play, lending itself well to simply just like a memorable one-off, of which there are many actual plays of it now that have sprung up over the last couple of years.
Oh, great. That's
or you can play like a more extended campaign where you take this crew and your ship and you go on your little adventures. And you like really build a sort of found family kind of vibe with it.
Yeah. Is this your like first RPG that you've made, or
no? So I did another one which was much more traditional called Sins a couple of years ago.
Oh, right, yeah, I'm big familiar with Sins. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not used to that.
Yeah. Keep my ear to the ground a bit.
Which actually won a UK Games Expo award.
I remember
quite a few years ago. And Orbital Blues was something that I came back into the RPG scene and said, I have an idea to Zachary Cox at Soul Muppet. And Zach was like, yes, absolutely. And helped us like come together as a team and make Orbital Blues what it is today.
Have you done other sort of illustrations, Josh, or like have you like worked in RPGs before? Is this first time,
this was actually the first time. This was 2020 that I was brought in to work on this. But then since then, I've done quite a bit of other work. There's a Mothership game called Hull Breach.
Oh, right, yes. I don't know that one. I know Mothership. I don't know that particular one.
But I did quite a few pieces for Hull Breach, which is a very beautiful book. And there's a analog horror game called Public Access.
Okay.
That's like set in the 80s, set in the 2000s, about like 90s. Public access television and haunted videotapes.
All right, sure.
And I did like a bunch of horror art for that.
Oh, is that the Jason Cordova?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, apart from Brindlewood one. Yeah, I've been meaning to check that out. I played a bit of Brindlewood Bay and kind of enjoyed it.
It's always,
I want to check out those games.
It's always fun. Like whenever Jason or the team, like whenever they send me a prompt, it's too scary for me to work on in the evenings. Like I have to work on it during the day, but it's very fun. And then there's 5 more Orbital Blues adventures. There's an art book that I put together.
Cool.
And there's a sequel that's on the way. Since I did this, it's kind of opened the door to working on other RPG stuff, and I really love doing it.
Great. So, what have you both got sort of forthcoming?
I've got a bunch. Well, it's not really forthcoming at the moment, but there's a bunch of free Star Wars role-playing game books that I've written and designed, and they're all up for free. The next big Orbital Blues thing in a couple of months, we should be getting The Wanderer, which is a solo rules expansion. Okay, so if people wanting to play Orbital Blues solo, they can get The Wanderer. And then the next big thing, which should be before the end of the year, is Afterburn.
Summer. I think Orbital Blues Afterburn, which is like a big addendum of everything that we couldn't fit in the core book. And it is like a sequel of sorts. And it's got everything in it, such as like a storyteller's guide, a guide to running interstellar travel, how you go about doing that. It's got a massive sandbox in it that you can play in.
Cool.
If the first Orbital Blues game is about being sad and depressed in space, I would say Afterburn is about going fast. It's about danger. It's about heat. It's about excitement. It's kind of the hot to Orbital Blues is cold. So that's something to look out for, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, nice Orbital Blues has a nice, lovely blue cover. Afterburn has a really fiery orange cover.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks very much for your time, guys. Really
appreciate
it.
Thank you.
Cheers. So I'm here at the UK Tabletop Industry Network stand with Freddie, who's one of the members of that collective. What exactly is the UK Tabletop Industry Network? What do you guys do?
So UK Tabletop Industry Network, we run monthly meetups across the country in Glasgow, Manchester and London. It started just in London, but since I started organising the Manchester branch, that people have been starting different chapters around there. We offer advice and support from idea to publishing, manufacturing, fulfillment, mainly on the Discord, but also in person. And also here at the convention today, we represent creators who might not have access to mainstream conventions, selling them, making sure their work gets visible and out there. We also run monthly tin talks as well, all for free, supported by our Patreon. So that's what we do. We're a networking company.
Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about through some of the games that are on the stall?
Yeah, of course. So, oh my God, we've got so many. Where to start? So we have Lady Beast. This is a 2-player RPG where you play as a couple where one of you has to turn into some sort of monstrous creature in the night. I've got to plug my game seeing as you asked.
Yeah.
This is the Bookmark. So the Bookmark is where you take a book from your shelf, any book you like, and use it for a spell book. As a spellbook for your character in-game.
Nice.
The book comes with custom bookmarks that go into the book and teach you how to use the words from the book as spells.
Okay.
The idea is that the book that you choose has survived the collapse of civilization.
Oh, okay, sure.
And the only thing left of that civilization is scores of advanced robotics. The robotics only can communicate in the old language, so any book becomes a way of communicating with them, manipulating them, reprogramming them. So it's a sci-fi spellcasting setting. It's my game there.
Cool.
What else have we got? Okay. So we have this Solo Spice, solo journaling games, one based around a number station where you're trying to receive signals from the Soviet Union. We have also Ex Libris, which is more of a kind of wholesome slice of life one. You are a solo journaling librarian who has just moved into a new town and sort of has to alleviate tensions there. Crying Wolf is awesome. It's a folklore horror one based on the boy who cried wolf.
Okay,
where
sure.
you are a number of children who have seen some sort of phantasmal creature that may or may not exist. It's ambiguous in the game.
Right.
And you have to avoid the creature, but then also avoid the punishment of your parents who don't believe you.
Cool.
What else have we got? We've got
you've got a lot of publishers. So how many sort of publishers are you representing today? Like,
we're representing over a dozen independent creators, all at varying stages of emerging artists to established artists.
Cool.
People who are on their very first Kickstarter versus people who are doing their third or fourth one as well. And also, people who have done like big titles as well come along to share advice. I think in the indie scene, a lot of the established creators know that there's not like a clear pathway into the industry a lot of the time, so it does rely on that kind of word of mouth advice and support.
For sure.
So yeah, it's a really, really welcoming space. Like, I've learned about events management through it, and connected to a network in Manchester I never would have gotten to otherwise.
Yeah. It seems to me like the UK and the RPG scene's really healthy right now. Like, it's quite vibrant. How do you feel about it yourself?
Yeah, I think that right now the American market is really the one that you want to model off, because there's so much more appetite for RPGs there currently. But you can see that kind of uptake slowly happening in the wake of board games. If you look at Waterstones has expanded so much, things that maybe you would have seen in the indie scene, and we're feeling that kind of I guess you'd call the wave of that in the TTRPGs as well. But it's a great place to do it. There's people coming from all walks of life and different creative backgrounds. That's it's a good place to be right now.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time, Freddie.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Cheers. I'm here at Slightly Reckless Games with Sasha, who's you're the sort of head honcho of the company?
Head honcho, writer, wrangler, just anything that falls under that umbrella,
Cool, so what is it your company is doing? I've got to see Ronin in front of me here that looks sort of mortboard kind of inspired.
Yes, so we did a Kickstarter last year for a samurai dark fantasy Edo period hack of mortboard.
Right.
The reason we chose mortboard was because the rule set was kind of flexible enough for us to build upon and kind of go our own way with it. This is our first project.
Yeah.
It kind of...
And a very nice looking project it is.
Yes, thank you. It kind of blew up out of nowhere, to be honest with you. We I wrote it as kind of like a hobby thing, and my colleague over here did the writing and design, the layout and design and stuff.
Cool.
And then when we did the Kickstarter, it kind of exploded in popularity, and now we're here. It's our first convention. We're really enjoying it.
Cool. I don't really know mortboard terribly well, but it's kind of exploded in the last couple of years in the indie scene. There seems to be a lot of adaptations. What is it that sort of you think draws people to mortboard?
I can only speak from our personal kind of point of view, but the reason we were drawn to mortboard was because we've got a history of playing your classic tabletop role-playing games like D&D, Call of Cthulhu, Cyberpunk, that kind of thing. And they kind of all have I don't want to say uniform, but it's quite simple in its layout and stuff. And when I saw mortboard and the way it was kind of all over the place, and the graphic design was cool, and it was just kind of, it opened my eyes to the fact that a tabletop role-playing game doesn't have to be the way it's always been. It can be laid out and mad artwork, and it allowed me to explore a different kind of writing style than I usually would, which was cool.
Yeah, so something a bit more sort of creative and expressive, really.
Absolutely, yeah, because our background is in video production.
Oh, right, okay.
So we're I'm a big film buff and stuff, so Kurosawa and that was a big influence when I was writing. So doing something that's quite visually striking was really important for us, and I think we pulled it off, kind of, looking at the product.
So you said your background's in video production?
Yeah.
Is there anything from that sort of discipline that you've taken into making RPGs?
Yeah, actually, because I'm sure you guys know yourselves, but when we kind of take a project on, you go from the pre-production phase where you kind of plan stuff out, and when you get to the production phase, you kind of start seeing it come together, and the post-production phase is when you're kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty. So there was loads of crossover. It was quite natural, actually, the transition from video to making a TTRPG.
Awesome. The UK and the RPG scene seems quite sort of vibrant at the moment. How are you guys sort of finding getting sort of assistance from other companies and integrating into that community?
Awesome, man. Just yesterday, I've lost count of the amount of people that have come over and I'm from this place, I'm from that place. It's just been so good to meet people in person, because you obviously hear people's names and stuff like that, and you recognize the work. When you get to meet the person in person, you get to go, the UK's really got an exploding scene for TTRPGs and stuff, which is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like, what you've obviously run it out now. You're telling it what's like next from you guys.
So the plan at the moment is we've got another Kickstarter coming towards the end of June, early July. It's going to be similar in scope and scale, but this time it's going to be Norse mythology. We're going to have a little bit more of a kind of tangible aspect to it. I can't obviously say too much right now, but we're exploring some other things, and towards the end of the year we're going to bring out some more supplements around it.
Cool, awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, Sasha.
Thank you.
Cheers. Ta. So up at the back of Hall 2, we're at Wanderer's Tome with Chelsea and Fleur, who made this game called Flabbergasted. But a friend of mine, Guy Milner, who runs a sort of one-shot RPG-focused blog, was telling me all about yesterday. So what is your game? What's it about?
So, yeah, Flabbergasted is a comedic role-playing game set in the Roaring Twenties.
Okay.
And it's inspired heavily by like classic madcap British comedies, primarily Jeeves and Wooster and the works of P.G. Wodehouse. And so it's all about like having fun with like British aristocracy, and it's a game that's mostly focused on social situations, improvisation, and coming up with the silliest solutions to problems possible.
Sure, and it's got a really like distinctive art style that feels kind of like sort of Belleville Rendezvous, that kind of sort of like French cartoon kind of thing. Who's the artist behind it?
So the artist of the cover is Riccardo Bessa, and the interior art is done between, well, myself.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
And then other artists like Andy Bennett and Dozer Draws.
Cool. So what sort of powers the system like? What do characters do in a sort of typical session?
So Flabbergasted has its own game system, so it's not a setting for another system. So with our system, we tried to make it as easy as possible for people to improv and do comedy, because comedy is not natural for everybody.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that,
and
for
it's
sure.
hard.
Yeah.
So the dice, so the system uses, we've got a dice pool system with some attributes.
Right.
It's just D6s.
Sure.
But the main mechanic that we have is something called scene cues, which are narrative abilities in the game. And these are, for example, in the aristocrat archetype, they have a scene cue called Don't You Know Who I Am?
Okay, sure.
Where you basically name drop and you move the story forward by doing that. Like, you convince somebody else to do something because you dropped your family's name.
So they're not sort of like hard mechanisms, they're more sort of like narrative.
They're narrative abilities.
Guidance.
So especially if you're stuck and you don't know what to do next, a lot of people take inspiration from their scene cues.
Sure.
And in a game, so you and your friends are playing one of these 4 archetypes, and you create a social club together.
Okay, sure.
Which can be any team that you want, and your social club has rival clubs, and you're gonna have public challenges issued by your rival clubs, and you're gonna try one up each other. Other things you're gonna be doing is that in a campaign, we encourage the director, who is our version of a GM, to draw inspiration from characters. So characters have flaws and dilemmas.
Yeah.
And so within a campaign, characters are going to resolve their dilemmas. The social club has a big trouble, which is something trying to dismantle them as soon as they're formed.
Yeah.
And so within a campaign, you're also trying to fix your big trouble.
So is a campaign like quite a fixed length because of that? Like, so like you sort of like get to a conclusion of it and sort of wrap it up?
It's not a fixed length.
Right, okay.
But it is sort of like a guideline. Like, if you have like 5 player characters, you're probably going to have somewhere like 10. We call them episodes, which are like, chapters for part of the story.
Has it got sort of like it's a sort of TV film kind of focus? It's like how you sort of present the story to the players.
Not quite so heavily, but we do encourage people to think of their story as like this TV show arc.
Cool. So are you folks working on anything else after Flabbergasted, or are you working on like expansions for that, or what's next out of your studio?
Yeah. So we have like other accessories that we've done on the side, like including our first Build a Portrait sticker book, which is aimed for people who are into tabletop fantasy tabletop role-playing games. So you can build your character, using stickers right at the table.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, we are working on a lot more games. we just relaunched a campaign to fund our expansion called Mystified for Flabbergasted. It's fully funded, but now it's for pre-order. And we have like a couple more games coming out later on this year and early next.
Cool. Are you based in the UK or?
No, we're actually based in Malta.
All right, okay.
We're Maltese, we're two sisters.
Yeah.
So we flew in for this. Yeah.
What's the RPG scene like over in Malta? Like, it's quite vibrant. I know nothing about it.
So when it comes to actually like publishing role-playing games and board games, it's very, very, very small.
Right, okay.
Like, it's probably just us doing role-playing games and like a couple others. But there is a good, like a small, like, hundreds of people who are really into role-playing games and board games, and we have some like big supporters.
So the audience is quite big, but the sort of publishing side of it's a bit smaller.
Yes.
Cool. Right. Well, thanks very much for your time.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Oh, it is the end of day 2 of UK Games Expo. And it has been a very busy day. Rich and I are sitting once more in the Hilton Bar with a beer in hand. And yeah, it's been a very busy day. I started my day off by finding out that we can get into the halls early as press.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, that was handy. Thanks very much to Mike from Board Game Wire for letting me know about that. And managed to sit down at a table for Arcs, which is the new leader game from Cole Worley and Kyle Farron, the team that brought you Root. It's really good, folks. Like, I've only played a couple of chapters or rounds of the game. It's got a weird sort of like little sort of trick-taking action selection thing, which is actually quite simple to learn, but is quite deep. And it's just, it's good. It's really interesting. I want to play more of it. I will be buying it.
I am intrigued. So I started my day by sleeping a lot more than Ian, and then eating loads of bacon and coming and finding him. So I missed the Arcs demo.
Yeah.
It does sound pretty cool, though.
It is very good.
Sound pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the campaign stuff and everything they've got going with it, but the single game setup seemed cool, interesting, dynamic. Like three or so actions in on our turn on the round. The four of us, really me that were playing it, basically had the game down pat. We knew what we were doing.
Yeah. So one of the things
really cool.
That was really apparent when we saw the actual production version of the game at retail. Is that the game itself comes in a fairly normal looking box.
Yeah, it's like a Root size box.
It's what I would consider like a regular sized board game box. And then there's the campaign expansion, which is in a box that's like 8 times as big. I mean, holy smokes, what the hell is in that?
I don't know, but imagine
it must be huge.
Yeah, imagine like sort of big Kickstarter box. That's the kind of thing we're looking at.
It's like holy smokes.
And there's another little card expansion as well. So I don't quite follow that. I'm going to have to look into what the hell's going on there.
It'd be interesting to know quite what is in that huge old box, because that is a proper chunk.
I mean, we did see that on one of the distribution center tables, so that might have been like the Kickstarter exclusive version of the campaign. Maybe there's like miniatures or something in there. I don't know. Anyway. But for the rest of the day, the theme of the day has been like connecting with people, like meeting people.
It's been really good. We've met a lot of really interesting creators in the indie RPG space.
Yeah, we spoke to a bunch of people. Realised that Barrington Press were here, who are the publishing arm of Critical Role. Got to talk to Katie, who's their marketing person, who very nicely gave me a copy of Candela Obscura.
Very nice of her.
Which is very nice.
Absolute delight to speak to.
Yeah, it's very nice, really on what they know. They only had a small stand, but both you and I suspect they'll be here in more force next year.
I've got a sneaking suspicion that once Daggerheart is a real thing people can buy.
Yeah,
they probably will have a pretty chunky, a big old solid presence next year.
Yeah, it felt like a test. It felt like a tester stand. Let's get a feel for it.
Let's see how this works. Let's see what these crazy Brits are like.
Yeah,
is it worth coming back properly next year?
Absolutely.
Hopefully, the answer's yes.
Yeah. Who else did we see today? I went back to Soul Muppet Publishing and I picked up Orbital Blues, as they put it, the game of Sad Space Cowboys.
It is the game of Sad Space Cowboys.
Because Zach, who I spoke to yesterday, said that's the game that sort of best represents the company. So I want to review that and like talk about Soul Muppet. I got to talk to the artist and designer of that game as well, which is really nice. Really nice guys. That interview will be out on the rest of this cast.
Yep.
And I also got to talk to
the union
I've
guy?
forgotten the gentleman's name, but basically the union rep for what we were talking about on Brainwaves recently, where the computer game union in the UK has now taken on tabletop game industry workers, and he's like the rep for that part of it.
Quite important.
He tapped me on the shoulder at Soul Muppet, because he's part of them as well, and we had a wee chat about that as well. So that was really good to get to talk to him about like what they can do for tabletop workers and how they're working. That was great.
Yep.
We talked to UK Tabletop Industry Network as well, which is like a modern collective endeavour, effectively. Like
very reminiscent. That's a group of RPG creators self-publishing their own material.
Yeah.
Banding together for mutual aid and safety in numbers.
Basically. Because like I don't know if you've ever like run a stand post, but basically if you're running it on your own, that's a problem.
It's running a snow on your own is both incredibly expensive and incredibly hard work.
Yeah.
And the more people you team up with to do that, the easier and cheaper it becomes, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Be nice to people, make buddies, hang out with your mates, and it can actually be kind of a fun thing. And sometimes, just sometimes, you end up making more than you spend.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you sell enough books.
What I would recommend, folks, is if you ever see someone on their own on a stand at a convention and they're looking a bit tired and frazzled, offer to get them like a Coke or something, or maybe if they need a break or they need like some food.
Consider them a little bit like the dog left in a car with the window cracked, right? Sometimes they need a little bit of water, or a few biscuits.
So do help those folk out, because sometimes they make you really interesting stuff, but it is hard work. Absolutely. Who else did we talk to today? We talked to the UK Indie RPG Collective, which I didn't get an interview with them, but they're a similar collective that are producing interesting games. So I also saw an RPG called Ronan, which is based on Morkborg. Had a wee interview with them as well. They were very nice to give me a demo copy as well. So I'll be checking out. I know very little about Morkborg. I know it's like it's a sort of OSR kind of dungeon thing de jour at the moment. So it's interesting to see a game that's based on that.
It's a very creative. Morkborg as a physical book, as a document, as a piece, an artifact, is a phenomenal piece of design. It's a beautiful book, beautifully presented. It looks amazing on a coffee table. It's lovely to pick up and thumb through. As a game,
I feel you're steering around like what?
Right. I mean, it's also a game that you can theoretically play, but as an object, it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and Ronan Ronan kind of looks the same to me.
Oh,
It looks really pretty.
It's an amazing.
Whether it's going to be an artifact you can actually play.
It's an amazing art. That book is gorgeous. That book is amazing. Looks phenomenal.
But yeah, I will definitely give it a first read-through review, and then we'll get a review down the line for sure. We spoke to the folks that made the Flabbergasted RPG, who are a couple of Malta designers. And it's like Maltese designers, and it's like sort of Jeeves and Wooster-y kind of RPG.
It's basically Jeeves and Wooster. Yeah. It's got a very the presentation of the book is wonderful.
Yeah.
It has a lot of artwork that's very reminiscent of if anyone's read French or Mediterranean, Spanish, Italian comics.
Yeah. It reminded me
it's got a beautiful
Belleville,
art style. It's a really, really lovely art style.
Yeah.
Very, very, very lovely book.
Yeah, and they were really nice little interview with them, and I was learning a little bit about what the Maltese scene is like, which is always nice, like to learn what different countries' gaming scene is like. That was really cool. And then later in the day, we met up with Matt Thrower, who's my co-host on Call the Old, and we basically rode on Matt's coattails for 2-3 hours.
Yeah, we got a very, very good, we got a really good rundown of Hachette's recent releases and their upcoming releases.
Yeah, we got to meet Rob, who's like their PR guy. Matt writes for like IGN and like Tabletop Gaming Magazine and some other big outlets. Yeah. So it was nice to like be able to tag along with him, meet like the PR folk for Hachette. Like you say, Rob's pitches were like absolutely.
It was really nice to see what it's like hanging out at the adults table in the game journalism, right?
Yeah.
The level of it was great getting Rob's pitches were spot on for every single game, very quickly, very easily. explain exactly what a game was, what it was about, what its target market was, and how it worked in a way that just was a brilliant piece of oratory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I really...
definitely lessons that everyone should learn.
Yeah.
Here's how you pitch a game. If Rob ever found himself at a loose end, right, he could do a masterclass in how to pitch a game.
Yeah, big consultancy there. Yeah.
So many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get into. I don't want to name names, but there was a game yesterday that was pitched to us by some very enthusiastic people who didn't know how to pitch the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's so important. Like, it's hard. Like that is hard. I think a lot.
It is hard.
I think some people come to this kind of thing, like especially smaller publishers. I just expect to get people coming to their stall, but you need to be you need to practice the pitch a little. You need to figure out how you're selling that.
It needs to be sort of short. It needs to be pithy. It needs to be. It's like you've effectively you've got the equivalent of an espresso shot of info, right? Yeah. Here's the 3 salient points or the 6 salient points or whatever. I'm sure that someone who's super into marketing will tell you how many. But there's give me in 3 sentences why this is good, why it's interesting, and why I should care. And that's something that's lacking. Rob was brilliant at it. Yeah. I came away understanding in a really short amount of time where about 12 of their recent or upcoming releases sit in the market, why they're interested.
And not only that, kind of where Hachette sits as well.
Yeah.
In terms of their price points and the target audiences and that kind of thing. It was really informative, really good. Thank you very much, Rob from Hachette. It was thanks for letting us tag along on that.
I think we have to talk. We have to take a moment here to talk about moon buggies.
Oh, moon buggies, yeah. You're really enthusiastic about moon buggies.
I just think. So we all know about.
As was Matt.
Right. So we all know about worker placement. You place a worker on a space.
Yeah.
How about Exhibit comes along and says, "Yo, dog, I heard you like worker placement, so I've put workers in your workers,
so you can work while you work.
So you can work while you work." Right. So it's got moon buggies that have 3 slots that you can fit up to 3 workers in, and then you place your workers by placing the moon buggy with up to 3 workers in it. Somewhere where the 3 workers work.
And the workers can also have things in their backpacks
and the workers.
And bonuses.
It gets even better. There's a 3rd level here because each of your workers can be carrying like a little dingus thing, right? Which I guess makes them better at working. Or
which worker placement are we in, Rich?
I know, we're 3 levels down. We're 3 levels down. We have to go. This is like worker placementception.
Yeah, it's right? Christopher Nolan of worker placement games. So I think that was called On the Moon.
From the Moon.
On the Moon.
From the Moon.
It's coming in September, August.
It's coming later this year. Going to stress that I haven't played it, but I am fascinated by this idea of the worker in a worker in a worker.
Yeah.
Does sound like
Russian dolls.
Yeah, it's kind of like Russian doll worker placement. Sounds interesting. Looks great.
Yeah.
The components are lovely, but we've seen a lot of games with lovely components over the years, and not all of them are good.
Yeah, indeed.
So
we went and looked at Darrington Press in between there, and then we joined Matt around about 5 at Osprey Games, where I got to meet Benji Corliss, who's a guy I've talked to a little bit by email. And Benji was, again, really good at pitching what Osprey were doing and what it's about.
Also could run a masterclass in how to pitch games.
Yeah, absolutely. He described himself as an enthusiastic puppy. Yep. His words, not mine. Really good about showing us what's coming up for Osprey. Obviously, the sci-fi version of Undaunted coming out, Undaunted Callisto.
Yep.
And we saw Roland McDonald last night, who's the artist for that.
That's Roland, not Ronald.
Roland McDonald, yeah. So that's coming out, and Benji was saying there'll be expansions, because of course there will be.
Yeah.
I just showing us some stuff. I got a chance to
the really interesting hybrid escape room war game spy thing.
Yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. I got to talk to him a little bit about the RPGs as well, which was good.
Oh yeah, right. So some of that. Yeah. Some of that sounds. He sounded very enthusiastic about a lot of those.
I mean, he mentioned Gumshoe. I'm not a fan of the Gumshoe system,
but,
really.
It's got its fans.
It does, yeah. I mean,
just because I'm not one of them.
No shame on people who like that system. It's not for me.
No, it's not for me. But
yeah,
I get a lot of people like it.
I mean, Osprey do a lot of RPGs that I haven't really looked at. I think Perilous Lands, their sort of Arthurian one seems kind of interesting. I don't know what system it uses. But they seem to be doing some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, they've got some really interesting things coming from Osprey. I liked the Battalion. Sounds like a very much a board game, but with a war gamey kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
In a similar vein to Imperium, in that it's fantasy. Not when I say fantasy, I mean fantasy and fantasy football.
Alternate reality. Yeah.
Well, no, they're traditional factions, as far as I can tell. They're proper historical factions, but you can mash them together in ways that clearly don't make any sense. Right?
Yeah.
We don't know. They haven't released who the factions are.
Yeah.
But the idea of having, for example, feudal Japan have a throwdown with like ancient Greece, for instance, which could be kind of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I like the sound of that. That sounds.
And that's Roland McDonald doing the art again on that, but it's quite different to the Undaunted look. It's more stylized, more cartoony almost.
Yeah, you have to wonder if he ever sleeps. He just
well, from what he was saying last night to us, I don't think he did. For all of last year, I think he was just drawing constantly. Roland's a really nice guy. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, I really recommend it, folks. He's a really interesting artist.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of cool things.
So it's pretty good.
It's been a good day.
Yep.
It's been a really interesting day.
It was good.
Thanks very much to everyone who's talked to us. And we'll do a little bit more tomorrow, and then I have to go home.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. I haven't got a lot of time left at UK Games Expo, but I'm wandering the halls a little bit, and I've stopped at Crossed Paths, who are an independent RPG publisher. I've been explaining to a lot of those folks over the course of the con. Here with Ash from Crossed Paths. So, what games do you have here, Ash? Like, what do you guys do?
So I am currently publishing a bunch of games, but today over the last 3 days, we've been displaying Bramble Trek, which is my first RPG that I ever designed. It is a solo RPG where you use a standard deck of cards to explore the wilderness as a small little mouse.
Oh.
It's perfect for new players and parents who want to get their kids into RPGs but don't know where to start. Because, if you've got kids, they don't have the patience for D&D rules.
Yeah.
So the game works on a rules as understood system where if you do understand the rules to mean something, that is what happens.
Okay, sure.
The game was designed for my nieces and nephews who are currently playing in a year-long campaign with just a book and a deck of cards. They're aged from 4 and up, so that should tell you how easy the game is to get into and play.
That's nice, cool. So it's GM-less, so
yeah,
you just
it
play
is,
as a group? Oh, yeah.
If you're playing on your own, it's a solo journaling adventure where you use the prompts that the tables give you. But if you're in a group, you use the prompts as an oracle. So you draw a card, it says you meet a friendly traveler, you guys discuss who that is.
Yeah.
And you are the guardians of your own narrative.
And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got Ashes coming.
Yes.
Yeah, which is quite different.
Yeah, it's launching on Tuesday. It is a Souls-like RPG. So for anyone who has played Elden Ring or Dark Souls, it is as brutal as it can get.
Okay.
There are traps, surprises, enemies, bosses, everything that will try and keep you and kick you to the ground.
Right.
And it's all about getting through that, resolving all of your, all of the enemies, and just coming back again and again for more.
Right.
Because for some reason, we enjoy games like Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Why can't we play that on an RPG format solo and just play it on like a train or something?
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, you're coming up to Tabletop Scotland this year?
I am, yes. I will be there. I am one of the sponsors as well, so you'll see our logo everywhere.
Oh, fantastic. So, expanding quite quickly then?
Yeah, it's gone very quick. I started this journey in September of last year.
Right, wow.
And I can say, if you look at our banner, you'll see how many games I've designed since then. It's gotten quite big. I think we're up to about 9 at the moment, so there's 7 or 8 on the banner, and then I've got one more that I'm keeping a little secret until I'm ready to announce it.
Sure.
So yeah,
the UK and the RPG scene right now seems pretty vibrant. How do you find it?
I have found it welcoming. It's the best way that I can explain it. I'm new to the scene. I have never done any of this before. My background isn't even game design. It is it's marketing and all of that. So coming into it, brand new, with no real, I guess, anything to show for it. It's just been fantastic.
Yeah.
So
great. Well, thanks very much for your time, Ash.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Man alive, it is
day 3 of UK Games Expo. Oliver and I are sitting out in the not sun, but the outside. And
Yes,
it's a nice day.
Daylight.
Yeah, the daylight. As Hall 1 has just opened. Oh, how have your last couple of days been, Oliver?
Busy. I've actually been demoing for Asmodee, so didn't really get to see much. We only got the 1 hour lunch break.
Yeah.
Spent the evenings in Hall 3 where they got the open gaming, playing some games with friends, including yourself.
Played some long shot and some can't stop.
Been here since Thursday. So yeah, it's just today is me the day where I'm going to go around and hopefully see lots of people.
Cool.
But it's been really busy, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like the Friday was manic, and Saturday wasn't quite that step up that I thought it was going to be.
No.
Thankfully, because I don't think you'd have been able to move because Friday was so busy. But yeah, I spent the last couple of days like talking to like a bunch of mostly indie RPG folk. Picking up some review copies as well of RPGs, which was very nice of people.
Oh, which ones?
So got a copy of Salvage Union, which is a post-apocalyptic mech RPG from Leyline Press.
Wow.
UK publisher.
Yeah.
A copy of a game called Ronin, which is based on another RPG called Mortborg.
Yeah. A friend of mine who is a little bit into RPGs and tabletop skirmishes, and he sort of keeps mentioning these names. So when you mention them, I go,
cool.
Yeah, I heard about it.
And I went and talked to Darrington Press, who I didn't realize were here until late yesterday, who are the publishing arm of Critical Role.
Okay.
And talked to Katie there, I think her name was, marketing person, and like got a copy of Candela Obscura for review, which is their like latest RPG, sort of vaguely Blades in the Dark adjacent.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll be doing like first reads of those in the not too distant future, and then getting them to the table over the course of the year. Got some reviews done.
Lovely.
Kind of feeling like drifting towards that a bit more, doing a few more RPG reviews.
I was going to say, how do you find that? Because you've been talking about reviewing RPGs recently. What's your approach? You tried something different recently, didn't you?
Yeah, so I did a first read of Deathmatch Island. So I haven't played the game yet at that point. I have now, 4-hour session.
Still struggling to find the good way of doing this.
Yeah, reviewing RPGs is quite hard, because board games have a set of rules, and you follow those. And then you can review the game.
And you move tokens around.
And it's very fixed.
You're not making things up, really.
So, whereas RPGs, they have a rule set for certain. How much an individual GM and players, grab that rule set and use it to resolve the things at the table can be very much up to the table.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to review RPGs as written as much as possible. Whatever their advice is in there, and trying to do it that way. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I'm just getting into it more this year, I hope.
It's a bit like, imagine you review a board game based on your house rules.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
got that element to it.
We really enjoyed it because we didn't actually follow some of the rules.
Yeah.
And you can't really do that. But should you? Because it's a role-playing game. The whole point is you're just in a setting, some sort of framework that you're working within, but ultimately it's about you should have fun with your party and, do whatever you do. So, difficult.
And, I don't know if I'm going to get pushback on that kind of thing, but I think a lot of RPG criticism is pretty bad. There isn't really a lot of good RPG criticism out there. There are a few people doing it. And I want to try and do some because I quite like talking about them and they're interesting and there's lots of cool things happening in that space, I think. I haven't seen a board game that's really jumped out at me yet. Really, I played Arch yesterday morning.
Yeah. You said good things about it.
I was pretty impressed. It's good.
So
it's been released really weirdly because it's there's the core box that's just root sized.
Yeah.
And then Rich and I were passing by I think it must be the distributor or something who had a copy of the whole thing. And there's the campaign module which is this big.
Huge.
And it's
good for a podcast. He's just showing you this big.
Yeah. No,
so imagine.
I haven't been podcasting for years. I'm just gesticulating randomly. So imagine a root box, folks, and then imagine a box about 3 times that volume.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the campaign one.
Right.
Maybe that's the deluxe campaign and there's something in there. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what's in there because as far as I know, it's just a bunch of cards and stuff, really. But I don't know. I'm going to need to read up because I obviously don't understand what's going on there.
Yeah, that was my understanding. So Arcs is, what do you say, it's like a trick-taking action selection, but there's more to that.
Yeah,
how would you describe it? Because I was saying, it's like Brian Boru, but in space.
Yeah,
you said you haven't played Brian Boru.
I haven't played Brian Boru, so I can't compare. But so, the core, there's 5 chapters in a game. It's basically sort of 4X-y kind of. You've got like this map of like with sectors in it and like a warp bit in the middle, and you can move around the outside or you can like move through the warp in various ways.
Right.
And you got like ships and cities and spaceports.
Yeah.
And you've got this weird thing where like the lead, like there's a lead player who plays like a card into the lead space, which is one of 4 suits. And each suit like allows you to take different actions.
Yeah.
So like the punching people in the face suit allows you to like move and fight.
All right. Okay.
And it has a certain number of pips on it that tells you how many times you can do those things that are on the card.
Okay.
It also has this symbol at the bottom left on the card, which is what do they describe them as? An achievement, I think it is, that you can declare.
Okay.
So what you say is like, okay, this round, if it's the first one to be declared this round, what you're basically saying is like, say, the person with the most destroyed ships of their opponents will get 5 victory points at the end of this chapter.
Okay.
And the second person will get 3.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 tokens that like go on these like achievements. So you can only have like 3 out of these 5 achievements.
Okay.
Declared.
Yeah.
And if you declare them, the number of your cards becomes 0. So everyone can, and everyone else can either like follow the suit.
Yeah.
And if you follow the suit, you can do the number of pips are on the card.
Yeah.
If you play higher, you'll take the initiative, little tracker thing, like you would in a trick-taking game.
Yeah.
You can basically just copy it by putting a card face down. It can be any card, it doesn't matter, and just take one action of the lead card suit, whatever that is.
Just follow the lead
you just basically follow. And you can do a thing called pivot, where you play like a card that's not in suit and just do one of the things on that card. So you can do something completely different, but you only get to do one of it.
Yeah.
But you've also got this weird thing where you've got like these resources that are like oil is one of them, allows to move more. So you can like play your card that might be like build cities and things, and you could put a move on it and allow you to like move as well.
Okay.
So you can manipulate what the card does.
Okay, right, yeah.
And then you can do like really clever things inside that system.
Yeah.
It's really quite interesting because like 2 or 3 cards in, we had it. Like we understood how to play. We didn't understand how to win.
No.
But like the system's quite simple, and like it's leader game, so there's like you get like a nice little player aid thing.
Yeah.
You got your little board. And it's really intriguing. Like the core game seems really solid. I have no idea if the campaign will be any good or if I'll want it.
Yeah.
Right now, how expensive it is because it looks absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
But the campaign's only like 3 games. It's not like an Oath where it like goes on forever.
Because people, when I heard talking about it, they said, "Cool game, great," and I think that's what Cole wants out of it. Just you play the cool game, you can keep playing the cool game, and you have fun.
Yeah.
But the idea is that the campaign is where the game really shines. I don't know what that actually means.
No, me neither. There was some stuff we asked about on the board that I think is definitely in the campaign rather than the core game.
Okay, yeah.
So like these achievements have got like numbers beside them that seem to mean nothing in the core game.
Okay.
But
so
maybe they change in nature or something over the course of the campaign or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it's super intriguing. I'm definitely going to be buying the core game when it comes out.
Yeah,
for sure, because it's really quite good. It's only 4 player, which means I might have to struggle a little bit to get to my table a little bit, but it's really nice, and it's really compact. It's like it's the board is smaller than Root.
Yeah,
it's longer. It's about the same like width as Root, but it's like shorter.
Yeah,
and you've only got like tiny player boards. There's not like a lot
to it,
but it looks gorgeous. It looks absolutely gorgeous because it's like Kyle Ferrand's art.
Yeah.
It's got a slightly sort of cheeky kind of art style to it, and it's
my friend.
I was very lucky to get a demo, and it was really good. And Ian, who was demoing it to me, was really, really good on the.
That's just the first name.
Yeah, he's from Glasgow. Okay, I've run into him a couple of times at conventions, and I recognise the face.
Okay.
What's that been demoed on? That's been demoed on. I can't remember. It's the sort of the front of hall one.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Speaking of which, in case you're wondering why my voice is going a bit, as I said, I've been demoing.
Yeah.
That
happens.
And it's been really busy. And that's quite good to see. I've been talking to some smaller exhibitors, and as you said, the Friday was super busy. I know it's half term, so more families.
Oh, of course.
But it was nearly as busy as Saturdays normally are. And as I said, the difference between Friday and Saturday, Saturday was slightly busier, but not by much.
Yeah, I feared it would be like just rammed, and I'd just have to go in whatever direction the crowd happened to be pulling me.
Yeah.
That thankfully wasn't the case.
I think for the event, obviously, that's really good. For the exhibit, it's really good. Everyone seems to have a really good show so far.
Yeah, everyone
We're hoping that today, obviously, still picks up, because the worry is now that everyone's been yesterday and on Friday. Are they coming on Sunday or not? I mean, Sunday tends to be the slightly quieter day.
But then again, we are witnessing a massive queue of people wandering into the hall right now.
Everyone's walking through.
I'm talking about wandering into the hall. We should do just that and go and look at things and try and get my brain engaged.
Yes,
awesome.
Wake up. Cool.
Let's do it.
Speak later.
Well, there you go, folks. That's all the interviews I had at UK Games Expo. It was a fantastic convention. It was really nice to be back after 5 years away. It was wonderful to meet Oliver in person for the first time. And thanks so much to everyone who took the time to talk with me, gave me review copies, and were just really welcoming and interesting to talk to. I learned a lot, and it was great to talk to a lot of the UK indie RPG folk who I'm hoping to interact with more over the course of the next year or so. Hoping to be back to UK Games Expo next year if I can afford the hotels, and maybe I'll see you then. Bye for now.